It has been an absolutely incredible journey that Willie Peters has been on, and it must be fair to say that Willie Peters has taken Hull Kingston Rovers on an incredible journey. They have had the most successful season in their history, and they were founded in 1882. It seems extraordinary when you say it like that, but I'm happy to say that Willie is on the line from the UK. G'day, Will. Congratulations, mate.
G'day, Jimmy. Thanks for having me on, mate.
So that's an incredible thing that you've achieved, but obviously there's a lot goes into it. But that moment that the siren goes, that you have achieved that famous treble, that you've won the Challenge Cup, that you've won the League Leaders Shield, and then you have won the grand final of Super League. Do you remember, do you have an overwhelming feeling that you had at that point?
Yeah, I think once Joe Burgess scored that try and I looked around and just saw the players embrace each other, I realised that we'd done something special. I wasn't comfortable until that point, and then once he scored that try, I looked around and thought, "Hey, we've just done it. We've just done the treble." So, look, mate, it's really difficult to do. There's only four teams that have ever won the Super League, and four teams that have ever won the treble, and no one's done it twice. So we spoke before the game around the opportunity that we had was huge, and we didn't want to miss it. So that was the moment that I'd realised, hey, we've done something really special here.
I was looking back at your playing record because, I had the great privilege of playing with you back at the Rabbitohs back in the day. But you went very early to England at Gateshead. Then you had a lot of success at Wigan the next year. And I'm looking at that Wigan side, and it's full of people who are household names in rugby league playing nations. So and then a bit more time there. You know English rugby league, and that is that it's, as you say, it's the haves and the have-nots. In many ways, Hull KR was a have-not. What made you confident that you could go there and make the difference that you have made?
I had a look at Anthony Seibold. Firstly, was the one that introduced me and recommended me to be honest, and that's how it started. The conversation started with Paul Lakin, our CEO. But speaking to Siebes at the time, I just remember saying that they've got they've got a group there that can do something. And why I thought that was they had a really good blend of senior players. There was Ryan Hall, Sean Kenny-Dow, there was Lachlan Coote, guys like that were coming towards the back end, but leaders. So I thought, there's enough leaders there to be able to help the young guys along. And then you had kids like Mikey Lewis, Jez Litton, players like that coming through. So I thought there is a foundation there. It's rugby league city. They love their rugby league here in Hull, and I just thought there was an opportunity to be able to help, take them to that next level. So, we had to make some changes, but the foundations were certainly there in terms of having good people around at the club, and that's the most important. People talk about culture. At the end of the day, it's having great people who act a certain way, and I could tell that we had good people at the club. But on field, the attraction to me was probably the senior group at the time, even though they only had like a year or two left.
That's a reflection of your attention to detail too, though. Look, so you've been in the system for almost a decade now. 2016, you were the West Tigers, NYC, and then assistant coaching positions at Manly and the Rabbitohs and the Knights. So it's clear you knew what you wanted to find or get attracted to. But as you say, not the finished product. When did you start thinking that guys like Jared Waerea-Hargreaves can be a final missing piece in the puzzle, Willie?
Yeah, it was when we lost the grand final. We'd obviously signed Jared well before then. We just lacked that experience to get us across the line. Mickey McIlorum and Jared Waerea-Hargreaves are two of the toughest I've ever coached. Well, they are the toughest I've ever coached. But mentally, to be able to do what they've done for 16, 17 years, as well as physically, it's unbelievable. But I just knew we needed to bring in guys that make others better around them. That those two guys, when they're in the sheds before the game, as a head coach, I feel comfortable. So I can imagine how the players are feeling. And we just needed that experience to help take us to that next level. Those guys certainly didn't play all games this year. So, the others have been able to stand on their own 2 feet and get the job done. But when it mattered in those big games, they stood up in at training sessions, the intensity of the sessions, team meetings. They led the way there. And Jared was, he saved his best to last. I thought he was outstanding on the weekend. So those two in particular, I thought could help us take us to that next level, and they certainly did. But in saying that, we've got a great leadership group, who are always developing and growing, and will certainly be better for having those two this year.
How much did the disappointment of 2023, so close in a famous Challenge Cup final against the Lee Leopards, and then to Wigan, who else in 2024 in the grand final? How much was that a motivating factor, and how much did that bring everyone involved in the club and the town along for the ride, knowing that you were not too far away from success?
Yeah, I mean, people always say you need to go through some setbacks to be able to learn and win in those big moments. When next time it's in front of you. We've got a lot of learnings from that Challenge Cup final. We had our opportunities, that's for sure. But look, the grand final against Wigan, I don't think, or not, I don't think we weren't there. That they were far superior to us last year. Even though the scoreline was 9-2. They deserved last year. They won the big moments. We didn't take our chances, and as I said, we just needed a couple of players to give us that belief to be able to take us that next level. But this year, I truly believe that we could win a trophy. We've got a saying that it doesn't matter what trophy we're playing for, we're going out to win. So whether Clive Sullivan or a Roger Millward when we play Cass and FC, we're going out to win those trophies, and we weren't shy to say we're going out to win the Super League, the Challenge Cup, and the league leaders. Because if you don't do that, then what's the point?
Yeah.
It's all about playing in those big games and winning trophies. It's an unbelievable feeling, and it's something that you want more of. And the players have got a taste of it now, so no doubt they're going to want more. But what it means to the people of East Hull, they've waited a long, long time. Our owner, Neil Hudgell, who's invested so much into the club. I've got a very, very supportive board who invest their time and resources into the club to help us win. It's been a collective effort, and you can't win if you don't share the same vision. And we certainly all share the same vision from top down.
Give us an understanding of how you align that vision, because one of the things we hear about clubs is alignment. Now, I don't know what Neil, his background is, but is it a part of everyone brings something to the table? Do you outline a vision and say, hey, this is where I think we can go, and they bring their support? How did that work, Will?
Yeah, good question, mate. It's everyone. It's collective. We've got a really diverse board who bring very successful men and women in their own right. So when we get together, it's everyone's has got something that they specialise in. For example, our chairman Paul Sewell is one of the best I've seen with people. His company is built on people, and I'm a massive believer in that. Another guy, James McNichol, who very successful man, he predicted that we're going to win in 2025. He's got a winning mentality. He doesn't take anything less than winning. So obviously there's pressure that comes with that, but. In terms of the vision of where we were, Paul Lakin and myself, a couple of years or when we first started, we wanted to be a club or a top four club in everything we did. We probably fast tracked that the first year and overachieved, and then possibly did that the second year. But once we, halfway through the second year, we realised that hey, maybe we can raise the bar a little bit here. But everyone brings their own, something different to the table. But Neil Hudgell, I'll just give you an example of him. Like we had a training session, myself, him, and Sean Kenny Dow the morning of the game. That's how down to earth he is and how connected we are. Just three guys just going for a train, get our mind off things. And I'm with the owner that you wouldn't know that he's the owner of the club, but he's a special man, and he's done so much for the place.
All right, let's get to brass tacks. You're probably the next cab off the rank when it comes to NRL coach. How much has that been a driver for you? How long are you contracted at Hull KR? Would you be as particular of the club you're coming back to in the NRL as you were when you went to Hull KR in the Super League?
Look, mate, it's a difficult question. I mean, at the end of the day, and the club are aware as well. At some stage, I want to coach in the NRL. It's always been a dream and ambition of mine to do that. But one thing I've done, Jimmy, is I've started the grassroots. I started under 16s. Well, before that, I was skills coach for the 16s and 18s, and then I was 16s head coach at South, 18s head coach. Went to 20s at the Tigers, and then went into being an assistant. So I wanted to learn as much as I could and be ready for that next step. people always say you're ready, and I'll always take that next step when I believe I am. Now, look, I'll back myself to coach in the NRL, but when that is, I'm not sure. This year certainly wasn't the time to be applying for jobs, and my main focus and his my main focus is what I'm doing here at KR, and I fully respect that. I'm contracted to 2028, but certainly, mate, at the right stage, I do want to coach in the NRL, and the board and club are aware of that. But at this stage, mate, I'm all in here, and I just want to make sure that I do everything I can to help this club further develop.
There's a couple of schools of thoughts around that, isn't there, about the experienced assistant that goes to the head coaching role, or that there's the assistant that then goes and coaches their own side. And we've seen success in both ways. We've seen disappointment in both ways. Are you adamant that you really wanted to be the head coach at an organisation, so you got that additional, I guess, experience, but also pressure associated with that?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a head coach, but again, I always wanted to make sure I was ready. Coming over here, it's been a wonderful experience, because you do have hands on in a lot of decisions at the club. In terms of staff, it's a far bigger staff in the NRL in terms of recruitment. Like Paul Lakin and I are the main two decision makers, which makes it nice and clean.
Yep.
Obviously, the board sign off, and they'll have their input, but it's really clean, and I like that way of doing things. When you have too many decision makers and too many opinions, it can get messy. One thing in rugby league, there's no right or wrong. It's just how you want to do things. I think some people get carried away, and this is how you got to do it. Certainly, you've got what you believe in, but definitely on field is not black and white. There's a lot of different styles to play and different ways of doing things. But in terms of off field, we've certainly got it. I've certainly got values that we want to live by and behaviours that we want to live by every day, and that's a non-negotiable. But it makes it nice and clean, as I said, with Paul and myself making the decisions around recruitment and that type of thing.
Take your whole KR hat off, put your Kangaroos cap on. I'm not sure if you ever thought that would be the case. So you might have to tell us how that all came about with Kevy Walder. Actually, tell us how did that come about, Will?
Yeah, so mate, initially I had a Bali holiday planned with the family to go see family and some friends. So that was all booked. And then I got a call, possibly to say, or Kevy reached out to say, I'm having a chat to a couple of, potential candidates. Would you be interested? I spoke to the wife, and obviously straight away we said it's an opportunity that may never get, but what an honour to be involved in the Australian team. So, I've got an extremely supportive wife and my two boys. So unfortunately, for my family and friends, we did have to cancel that, but they all understood as well. As soon as Kevy said, "Yeah, mate, you've got the role," we cancelled it pretty quickly and put our attention to the Ashes. But Kevy's been great. He just said to me, "Head down and get the GF out of the way. Make sure you win that." We're going in on Thursday. I think the boys are heading over now. So really looking forward to be part of an elite organisation, working with the best players in the world, and looking forward to playing a small part to hopefully help us win this series. That's for sure.
Sounds like it's going to be expensive jewellery, probably diamonds, to repay Mrs. Peters for giving up the Bali holiday, Will.
Absolutely, mate. We've got another holiday book, so she made sure we did that. So she got in. She'll be happy.
How will you go coaching against your own players? You're going to be doing that. Jez Litton, I thought, was exceptional. The hooker really created, but Mickey Lewis was probably the story coming out of the grand final after that brilliant performance. How will you go against your team?
Yeah, it's going to be different. Look, once I'm in camp, that's when I probably realise, hey, I'm actually coaching against, three of my players, who I love, mate, and care for. But obviously, it's a series that we want to win. They want to win. I'm hoping all three are in the team. Obviously, for with the whole KR cap on. But yeah, they're out there to win, mate. We'll be out there to win. Cheslitton's already said that he's going to lose my number for 4 weeks, so I'll find a way to get to him, mate. I'll find a way.
Back-to-back coach of the year at Super League. Just extraordinary. A great story. I was having a look at so we played against each other in 2000 when I was over there at Salford, and I looked at a game where you were playing, and your halves partner was Andy Farrell, who is an all-time great of Wigan, all-time great of Great Britain Rugby League, who's now the coach of the British and Irish Lions. Did you anticipate 25 years ago when you're in the halves with Andy that that would be the paths that you would go down?
Mate, I was a little fanboy, to be honest. I think I was 9, I was 20. So where we lived, we all lived together in like a little cul-de-sac. So I was next door to Andy while he was renovating his place. And mate, I used to knock on the door and just go in and just ask him questions and sit there and watch TV. And I'd be looking over going, wow, Andy Farrell, can't believe it. But mate, he's the type of guy, back then you had to earn his respect, but once you did, he certainly took you under his wing. He's the best leader that I've seen, to be honest. And
Wow.
obviously, what he's doing now with Ireland and the rugby union space, he's certainly backed that up of what I thought many years ago. I've been involved with some great leaders, but he's right up there. He leaders obviously lead through action, but he can certainly motivate a playing group when he was playing and obviously as a coach. But he led through his actions, and he's someone I certainly want to catch up with again and pick his brain because you can never stop learning. So I'll be looking to do that, after this series.
You have made everyone in East Hull very proud about what you've achieved this year with the Kingston Rovers. Congratulations on all that you've done, in particular with the grand final, Will. Absolutely outstanding and really great to have spent some time with you this afternoon.
Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks for watching. For more great content, subscribe to SEN League, your home of the greatest game of all.